Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started, and want to thank everybody for giving us some time this afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit about Sage 300 and the power of the cloud, and really learning how to change your experience using the cloud or using different technologies to help prop up your goals and your expectations when using Sage 300. So my name is Tyler Bauer. I'm the Director of Cloud and Hosting Services for Cloud at Work, which is a Net at Work sister company. We focus primarily on one thing and one thing only, and that's creating the best cloud experience for Sage end users. We started the company about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and we went to market with really one goal in mind, and that's to basically say if you're using a Sage application and you're looking to move it to the cloud, that we feel we've built the best cloud solutions for every and any Sage customer and end user based on what they're looking to accomplish. And the reason for that is because of our integration with Net at Work and their application expertise, and as well our cloud expertise, and bringing those two together. Presentation is roughly going to be about 30 minutes. Right after that, we're going to go into like a Q&A. That's my favorite part of doing these things. I really would love to engage back and forth with you. So all phone lines are going to be muted, but if you have any questions, just type them in that box. It's one of the last ones there, just the drop down. You can type that in, and I promise we'll answer them at the end. So just in getting started, I want to kind of get everybody's brain moving in the right direction, and I like to start off my presentations with just some engaging slides and conversation. So um, today's environment, today's technology environment is way different than it was last year or the year before that. A lot has changed just with the general landscape of what happened with the whole COVID-19 piece, and the transition that a lot of companies had to take as far as remote working. As well, just every year, the cloud and other technologies really just start to compound growth, and really just grow double and triple what they were in the past. Um, that being said, I really do believe that remote working is here to stay, and people, as well as business, has really gotten a feel and an idea that working remotely, you can really still be productive. It's really just making sure that we're doing it securely, we're doing it efficiently, and we're not overspending for technology that we don't need. So the cloud has been really a hot button topic, from a marketing perspective over the past 4 months. Places like Azure have been very much in the news. Early on during the COVID-19 piece, there was so much use of Azure, that actually there was no additional resources for a week or two, because it was being consumed at such a high rate. Um, you know, Folks, I'm sure we've all seen the funny outtakes within the Zoom calls. I think through GoToMeeting and Microsoft Teams and Zoom, I can't believe that there's ever been more people using those solutions than right now. And really, the cloud has enabled and showcased not just to the IT folks who were believers, but also to the executive level, showcasing that cloud is really an enabler for working from home, and has made it safe and efficient to work. Now, there definitely is some negative pieces to today's ecosystem as well. With that same shift, there becomes a lot of vulnerabilities as far as securely connecting, a lot of vulnerabilities around local networks and local builds, and whether it can support that remote connectivity and that usage of essentially turning their office into a full-fledged data center. But these are all things that really just got thrown on a lot of businesses' plates, and as the world kind of turned on its head. And the reason why you're seeing such a huge shift towards the cloud in respect to working from home is because it's so much easier to tap into already built infrastructure, into change management systems, and into refresh cycles that you don't have to manage. So no longer are these businesses really the focal points of trying to keep their finger on the pulse as technology around infrastructure and securely connecting and data management change. Really, they're tapping into a company or a service provider who's focused on delivering those solutions at best of breed, upper right hand type of solutions. So I think ease of use and really just kind of um, not wanting to be in that position of change any longer has contributed to it as well. So when we look at the evolution of cloud, and obviously these statistics are pre-COVID 19, but when we look back, into the early days of really the boom of cloud, which would be 2009, 2010, 2011, and so on. CRM and HR applications were really early adopters. The reason for that is a lot of those applications in that ecosystem, HR and CRM, were really born in that time era. So the visionaries or the owners of those companies had the foresight to essentially build applications on a cloud first backbone. And slowly we've seen more and more applications go that route. But within a lot of ERP applications, as you try and transition that to the cloud, you've seen a little bit of a slower life cycle towards that model. And the reason for that is because if you look at Sage as an example, what makes Sage so fantastic is that you have this core product that is rock solid, tried and true, but you have this phenomenal community around it that's creating enhancements, creating best of breed technology for specific industries, for specific workflows, for specific functions that really, companies can go and a la carte or smorgasbord their own solution geared towards their business. And that functionality is really, I think, the lifeblood of why so many people are using Sage today. Sage is not a cloud first application. It is really, I know that the naming has changed quite a bit into the Sage 100 Cloud or the Sage 300 Cloud, but there is beginning to become a cloud first strategy coming from Sage, and Cloud at Work is right there with Sage to help enable that. So there's a lot happening. I can't really talk about it, but there's a lot happening in the works, and Sage and Cloud at Work are working very closely together to help really build a cloud first mentality for Sage users and for Sage themselves. But as the curve starts to hockey stick up, and I think we've seen a lot of that growth during these past 4 or 5 months. The reason you're able to do that is because companies don't want to sacrifice their functionality. They don't want to be fit within a box where we say, look, here's this box, there's red tape, there's restriction, and you're going to have to change the way you do something, or you're just not going to be able to be allowed into our box. Providers like Cloud at Work are starting to create better solutions to these problems and giving companies the ability to access Sage 300 via web screens and access different types of ISVs and integrations, and have no limitation around customization or limitation around how users interact with other clouds even. These types of products and solutions to the problems are really helping enable companies moving to the cloud a lot easier and without any type of shift in their business process or shift in the way that they want to do business or utilize the applications. Really, Cloud at Work exists to conform to the way that you do business, so that way we can build cloud structures customized to your business. And that's really helping with that ERP adoption. Just some quick stats. Again, these are pre-COVID stats, but I think this showcases how many people are beginning to transition towards cloud. So if you look back into 2017, which is really just 3 years ago, you're seeing major shifts in the marketplace, and not only shifts in where people are computing, but also in how hardware is being procured, and as well how the workforce or how the talent pool is moving as well. Similar trends as more and more workloads shift to the cloud. less and less companies are really investing in their own IT and moving more towards as a service and more towards outsourcing. The reason for that, I believe is threefold. The first is the millennial workforce. So as more and more companies are hiring more younger, hungry folks out of college or out of high school in the trades or in manufacturing, they're noticing that this group has great ideas, and some in the past might have looked at it as maybe laziness or just stubbornness, but really, I think everybody's starting to understand that data faster, the handheld, the phone, the iPad, the I need instant gratification mentality is where technology is shifting to for accommodating these folks, because they are our future. And in order to get there, it takes an investment. It takes a lot of planning, it takes a lot of thought and strategy. And at the same time, in order to even get there, the technology investment is changing at such a rapid pace, which is our second point. So when the technology is changing at such a rapid pace, it's sometimes hard to keep up with that. So you look for service providers and as a service models to get there. And then the third, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, is cybersecurity, and really those threats that have impacted the mid-market small business, that really weren't impacting it 10 years ago. And on that topic, this is a good graph that shows, the kind of the history of cyber threats within the mid-market. So if you look back, this graph ends in 2017, but if you look back about 13 years, there really was mention of cyber threats and ransomware attacks and data theft and things like that, but it really at that time, seems to be very targeted, right? I mean, just to put it in context, I think I could be wrong here, and someone can correct me in the comments, but 2007 is around when the first iPhone came out, right? So long time ago, but it really doesn't feel that long ago when we think back. But this is when the targets and the governments were being hacked, and I would think most people were under the same mindset as me, which was, well, this isn't going to impact up and down Main Street. This isn't going to impact, everyday business. These governments, these large corporations have something that these people want, whether it's credit card numbers, whether it's, government secrets or what have you. But quickly, as we fast forward to 2012, 2013, we started to see a trend. And in 2014, 2015, 2016, we started to realize this trend isn't going away. And really what the game became is not about stealing anything or trying to take numbers or steal money. It's let's exploit vulnerabilities. And who has more vulnerabilities than ever is the up and down Main Street, because they're not investing as heavy into ways to protect their systems. It's really just been looked at as a cost center for many years, and maybe you're not doing adequate backups. Maybe you're not taking any type of antivirus or threat protection measures. These are the types of things that these organizations, and really you could classify them as businesses, started to exploit, and really started casting their nets and finding people who they could impact, who would have to pay a ransom in order to get their data back. And this has been a $1 billion plus infrastructure for many years, and really it's shocking how developed these threats have become. So when you look at the shift towards the cloud and the shift towards as a service, as these threats continue to compound and become more and more widespread and easier to become a vulnerability, the harder it is to stay on top of these types of threats and train our people and put the technology in place and create redundancies in infrastructure and data management. So cloud services, managed services, and different types of as a service models have become more and more consumed, because those those providers are focused on that 24/7. It's what they produce, it's what they manufacture. So as these threats are going to continue to compound as well, as we look at this kind of in a today's ecosystem, uh, you know, what's changed drastically is that everyone now is working from home. So taking the let me get up and talk to Bob Smith or knock on his door, or let me lean over my desk and talk to Jan about this email, that doesn't exist anymore. And communication has become a very big challenge for organizations. So things like Microsoft Teams and Yammer and Skype and all of these tools have really become the lifeblood, the that connects our employees and connects our organizations together. And sometimes when you're just sitting in your own office or sitting in your kitchen working, and you see this threat that may or may not exist, sometimes you don't think twice about it. Or what about you don't have a corporate device that you can take home? What if you're allowing employees to use personal devices? Like, what types of threats does that bring into the fold? How are you connecting? Are you using VPNs, or are you using different types of layered technologies for secure connecting? All of these things are gateways or foundational pieces that can really impact companies and how they operate securely. I think you're going to start to see over the next couple months, and we've already started to see it with some customers, that these threats are in the systems now and are impacting systems behind the scenes. And you're going to start to see people becoming more and more impacted through ransomware attacks. There's already been a very big curve there. The other piece that contributes to this is recently, it's kind of in the perfect storm, but recently um, Microsoft announced its end of life for SQL 2008, as well as Microsoft Operating System 2008. So no longer are security patches and updates being released for this product. And that's really creating major vulnerabilities. And believe me, those vulnerabilities are soon going to be exploited, just like they were when 2003 was sunsetted. So if you are using any of these products, 2008 R2 operating system or SQL, definitely want to talk to a trusted advisor to help move you and migrate you away from those, because most often than not, they are going to be a way that vulnerabilities will exist in your business. So let's talk about really the ecosystem of Cloud at Work and how we created products to solve some of these challenges that exist today in the marketplace. So as I mentioned, we started about 3 years ago. Net at Work has been doing cloud for probably about 8 to 9 years. Prior to that, we were using some of the big providers like AWS and Azure to deploy our infrastructure capabilities, and then we built really a managed service on top of those capabilities. When I came on about 3.5 years ago, I did a full evaluation of our services and our capabilities, and I had the vision in mind that I wanted to build the absolute best platform for Sage users, and I wanted to just focus there. I feel like there's enough of a marketplace just for Sage that I don't want to be distracted. I just want to focus on end users of Sage. And I really didn't feel like there was a way to combine application expertise along with the best cloud technology in the marketplace without having full control of both. So we decided to really build a better cloud solution where we had full capabilities from end to end. So that's exactly what we did. We decided to partner with a very robust data center provider where we have two data centers on both coasts of the United States that are tier 4 data centers, which is the highest classification of data center. What we use them for is really just physical location security, in and out of doors, man traps, eye scanners, fingerprint scanners, those types of things, as well as HVAC, power, and internet. All of the other technology that is in our data center, we own 100%, and as well support with Net at Work employees, Cloud at Work employees. We wanted to go to market because we saw that there was other Sage cloud providers out there, but really the mentality was let's race to the bottom. Let's see who can deliver the cheapest solution out there on the marketplace. And we felt what was missing was somebody who was really logically setting the right expectations with end users of 300, of 100, of X3, and really telling the story in a truthful way, with the good and the bad. And so we wanted to build the absolute best cloud infrastructure that existed in the Sage marketplace, so much so that that infrastructure could stand toe to toe with Amazon, toe to toe with AWS. And so we began architecting what we call virtual private cloud computing. What that means is we're dedicating and isolating cloud environments for you and your business. So you're not doing any type of multi-tenant sharing. You're not doing any public cloud computing. You're completely isolated and dedicated in your own cloud environment. Now you are sharing physical infrastructure, but through our IP and through the way we've architected that infrastructure, you're essentially having this floating cloud architecture that sits on multiple pieces of infrastructure at the same time. So what does that mean for you? The first thing it means is if somebody else lets in a threat, customer A, B, and C are in our data center, and customer A clicks on a link that they shouldn't have, will that impact you as a customer? And the answer is no. So every customer has their own dedicated virtual network, their own dedicated virtual firewall, and we're able to isolate those issues within that customer's environment. I'll tell you a little bit how we remedy those issues and how we take from a data redundancy standpoint, but those are the biggest pieces. Is performance is isolated as well as security is isolated to you. So there's no central threats. A lot of our competitors about two years ago, even into last year and into 4 months ago, had major ransomware outages where, because they had central threads built between their customers, hundreds of customers were down for multiple weeks at the end of the year, and really had nothing to really do besides sit and wait. They had no backup data to restore because the backup data was on the same network. They weren't taking their own backups, nor were they given that option. So really put in an extremely vulnerable position, a lot of frustration, and most were able to recover, but after multiple weeks of outages, that's really what they were left with. And again, there is no such thing as a bad cloud provider. There's just bad expectation setting. In that environment, the biggest difference is there's a lot of sharing. There's a lot of multi-tenancy. There's a lot of kind of backdoor access to everyone in their data center. And if you're in that type of environment and you're paying a very low price for it, there's usually a reason for it. So it's like anything else, supply and demand, risk versus cost. So if you want to place more risk out into the marketplace with a service provider, the more money you're going to spend for that. The more risk that you're willing to assume internally, the less money you're going to spend. So if you have a cloud price from a provider, you're paying a cloud provider today, and you're paying a very inexpensive price, it's not if, it's when that there's going to be a vulnerability. And it's very important that you understand that. Maybe you're comfortable with that, maybe you're not, but those expectations usually are not being set. And that's what we're here to do, is to write the marketplace and make sure that we're teaching the community what cloud looks like from an enterprise perspective. The second piece is everything that we do is 24/7 by 365, and that's all supported and monitored by Net@Work Cloud@Work employees. As I mentioned, there's no limitations with our virtual private cloud product. We custom build everything specific to your business and to your process. The pricing is extremely easy to understand and transparent. So we give you actual detailed pricing per unit of per CPU, per gig of RAM, per gig of disk. So that way you're not getting taken advantage of in a per user model where you add 2 users of Sage 300 and get charged $100 per user, when really adding those 2 users probably will only cost you $30 or $40. We're very fair, very transparent. We're in it for the long haul. We're not out to gouge customers, nickel and dime customers, or make a ton of money up front. We want to build for using each other and partnering with each other for the long haul. And then as well is our data redundancy policy. So we talked about customer A, B, and C. A lets in a ransomware threat that does not impact B and C ever. But how do we get customer A back up and running? So it's within our data policy and our information security policy that really sets us apart from every other cloud provider in the space. We have a policy of 48 hours of hourly snapshots. So every hour for 48 hours, we're taking a snapshot or a picture of your environment, and we're storing that in a separate network locally in the data center. What does that mean? So if customer A clicked on a link that they shouldn't have, they're infecting their production network. But you still have this hourly snapshot network to pull data from. So we can restore back to the hour in order to get a customer back up and running. Now, let's say they were infected for longer than 48 hours. Tyler, how are we going to get data from longer? So we take daily backups and we store those in a completely separate data center. So now you have production data, you have hourly snapshot data on a separate network, and you have incremental nightly data for 30 days in a separate data center. That's 3 levels of data. So in order to put our customers in a vulnerable position, you have to impact all 3 networks at the exact same time. Not impossible, highly unlikely. And every single customer in our cloud has that policy, whether you pay us $100 a month or $100,000 a month. It's the one thing that we're never going to sacrifice. We're never going to put our customers intentionally in a vulnerable position. We're always going to keep their best interests in mind, and we want to create that type of same mentality in the marketplace. Now, we do have disaster recovery options as well that we fully manage between our 2 data centers, and we guarantee 4-hour recovery time objectives and 1-hour recovery point objectives for all of those environments. That basically means that you'll never be down for more than 4 hours in any scenario, and you'll never lose more than an hour's worth of data in any scenario. So virtual private came to the marketplace, and we've been growing very, 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 very fast ever since. This product has gotten us noticed by some very, very big customers, but also by Sage themselves. So we're actually working very strategically with Sage as their cloud provider for their X3 team, and we're beginning to open up new avenues of working and collaborating with Sage to help them really build a better cloud strategy for their end users. So doing things the right way, a little bit more expensive, but again, we do it very efficiently, and we do it very well. Once we really got in about a year and a half into growing our business, we noticed that we were leaving some customers behind, that there still was customers who liked the idea of us telling them the differences of what they had in the rest of the other cloud providers versus virtual private and how it kind of stands by itself. But really, they don't need all of that, and they're okay with keeping a little bit more risk internally in order to sacrifice a lower price point. We were struggling with this for a long time because we understood the inherent risk of having a solution like that, of doing multi-tenant or hybrid hosting. But we decided to put our brains to work, and we created our hybrid secure platform. So we said, if we can't convince customers to move to virtual private, whether it's because the ROI isn't there, it's just too expensive, and they're okay with assuming that risk of multi-tenancy of hybrid environments, then let's just do it better than everyone else. So we're able to hit price points for Sage 300 users starting at $120 per user per month, whether you have 1 user or 3 users. Now, this environment is really going to be geared towards sub 5, 6 users, but we have users in there that have 7 or 8 users. But once you get to that 7 or 8 users, virtual private, just for the money as far as ROI, is going to make a ton of sense, and you're getting a lot more. In this environment, unlike the virtual private, which was 99.99%, this is 99%. So less of a guarantee because we're doing a little bit more sharing on the back end. We're still not sacrificing customer data, so we're dedicating virtual servers for everything that is holding customer data. And as well, as you can see, we're not sacrificing our data policy. 48 hours of snapshots, 30 days of backups, all on separate networks. There's still no limitations as far as applications go, and this is still 24/7 by 365 in the same data centers that Virtual Private is in. It's just this is going to have some back-end connection, or I'm sorry, some back-end pieces that are going to be shared. And if you have questions, I can go through the architecture in depth. But I can tell you that there's nobody in the per user hybrid multi-tenant Sage model doing this level of data redundancy, this level of backup, as well as this level of thought into that product. We're hitting the lower price point, but we're not sacrificing on our core values, and we're setting the right expectation with customers. Then after that, we slowly started to talk to customers and realize that a lot of them wanted to go to the cloud, but it really wasn't the right time. And as well, they weren't doing offsite backups. And we actually had an incident where last year a customer's business was flooded, a customer's building burnt down, and a few other things happened where the backups were completely destroyed. The business had to basically start over from scratch. So we wanted to create a very easy way for Sage users to get their data offsite securely and store them in our tier 4 data centers. So introduce the Sage 300 Secure Backup. For $50 a month, you can have up to 100 gigs of disk to essentially store all of your Sage data, and you can know that it's taken care of and know that it's securely held in a secure facility, our tier 4 facility. So that being said, just to round it all out, I hope that you were able to understand a little bit about what makes us unique. I hope I was able to shed some light on today's ecosystem and the way my brain is kind of thinking about it. I really appreciate you listening to me ramble for about 30 minutes. But if you have any questions, please type them in. I would love to communicate back and forth with you guys on this. If you don't want to chat here in the webinar, this is all of my contact info. Check out our new website, thecloudatwork.com. Certainly follow us on Twitter, follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook. And this is my direct line. You can reach out to me anytime. Okay, so it looks like I have two questions for now. How can we be assured that the data is secured in the cloud? So we can definitely talk online or offline about the architecture, and I can go through all that. But as far as data being secured in the cloud, think about your current situation, right? If I'm just going to paint a picture of a typical company. So maybe you're using Sage 300 and you have 10, 15 users, maybe 30 users in your organization. You're probably using a server today. So think about that. Us as a cloud organization, we're built for people to connect in remotely to us. And we have secure facilities that are non-cloud at work employees cannot access. So the physical access is limited. And then as well, from a secure connection capabilities, typically, I'm not going to say always, but typically we're going to have better endpoint protection, better endpoint technology, as well as better refresh schedules than most organizations, even in the enterprise marketplace. So you're essentially tapping into our architecture that we've built with best of breed technology, using VMware, using Microsoft, using Dell, using all of these major technology partners. I can share with you that we've definitely invested in the millions into this solution to create a very, very secure solution. So if you have a question, you can certainly reach out, and I'd be happy to go through and detail our architecture. Can I put my Sage on any other cloud like Azure? Absolutely. Certainly can put your cloud on Azure, no problem there. The big difference between Cloud at Work and Azure and other cloud companies is really single threaded. Azure, probably the biggest cloud name in the space. Cloud at Work, definitely a big cloud name in its area of Sage, but certainly not anywhere near the size or the depth of Azure. The reason why I don't even look at Azure as a competitor is because if you're looking for that true infrastructure as a service experience, then Azure's probably the way to go. And I would definitely point any customer in AWS Azure if they're looking for infrastructure as a service. The business that Azure and AWS are not in is they're not in the management business or talking to people business. So if you put your workloads on Azure, you have to be prepared to manage them. You have to be prepared to support them, things like backup, DR, redundancies, any type of additional secure connection capabilities, multi-factor authentication. Those are all things that you need to layer in and manage yourself, as well as the validity of backups and updates and patches. Then on top of that, there are other managed cloud providers who do management of the cloud itself, but Azure does not understand the Sage application, nor are they going to invest in that. So within one cloud provider, you're getting the top Sage 300 partner in the country to help delineate between cloud issues and application issues. And as well, you're able to still tap into very, very, very robust cloud infrastructure and capabilities. So when you're in a cloud, your users are going to have problems. They're not going to understand whether they are having a cloud problem or an application problem. That's why Cloud at Work exists and why we're growing at such a rapid pace. Are updates and upgrades included in the monthly pricing? It's a great question. So I'm assuming that you're talking about Sage 300, and the answer is no. Within our cloud environment, we're not doing updates and patches and upgrades simply because we want those schedules to be still beat to the drum of our customer, right? We don't want to force customers to do upgrades that they don't have to, and we would prefer that our customers have that strategic vision still for their application. Now, we do have application service plans for our own customers, for Net at Work Sage 300 customers, and you can talk to Kelly and our Sage 300 team or your account manager about that. And they actually do have different ways to consume support services that certainly can layer on top of Cloud at Work. Any other questions before we dismiss? Great questions, and thank you so much for the dialogue. I really appreciate it. Okay, well, with that being said, I want to thank everyone for their time. And certainly, like I said, if you have any questions, here's my direct contact info. Reach out anytime. All right, thank you very much, everyone, and take care.